right those goodbye. Your YouTube world is the purest gold, with every video fresh and new. You light my days with joy, so true. Oh, Vicky Maria, your voice, your charm, your spark, your flair, keep me glued beyond compare. From laughs to lessons, all you share. No line so rare, the comments buzz, your fans agree. We're all here for your energy. A loyal crowd, you're ahead of the game. So here's my thanks from me to you, for all the fun and wisdom too. Keep creating, stay the same. Vicky Marie, you've won the game. The comments buzz, your fans agree. We're all here for your energy. A loyal crowd, you're ahead of the game. So here's my thanks from me to you, for all the fun and wisdom too. Keep creating, stay the same. Vicky Marie, you won the game. Yeah, creating, stay the same. Vicky Marie, you've won the game.
Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So it's Monday, lunes, another week beginning, just another manic Monday. I love that song, The Bangles. Really good song. So yeah, it's Monday. Hope you're all well. And what we're going to look at in this video today is we're going to look at this Russell Brand interview that I was going to do yesterday, talk about yesterday, but of course, events over the weekend, Trumpy being shot at or nearly shot at. So I ended up talking about that. So I wanted to talk about this, see what you think, let you know what I think. Is there anybody out there who disagrees with me? Because, I've never liked Russell Brand. I just never have. I've never understood why, what his attraction was. I knew that, I remember years ago, he was very popular with women. I don't think he had to try too hard, to find women. But of course, now all these historic allegations are coming out about him, that a lot of the things that he did were inappropriate, even as far as forcing himself on women, etc. So anyway, he's got his court cases going on, and he's just recently he's promoting a book at the moment. That's why he's appearing on all these interviews. Some might say that's really not very wise, while he's waiting for these court allegations to be resolved. But you know what? I suppose he's got to earn a living like everybody else. He got cancelled off everything, didn't he? Cancelled off YouTube. Because, of course, then he started doing all the conspiracy theory things. He's an anti. Well, you'll see in this interview when Piers Morgan tries to ask him. This interview that we're going to look at today is with Piers Morgan. He tries to ask him if he is an anti-vaxxer. He never gives a straight answer to anything. Honestly, I'm watching this interview. You're sort of trying to look I mean, maybe it's confirmation bias because I don't like him, so maybe I'm not looking hard enough for the positive things. So, anybody who has got anything positive to say about him, I'd be grateful to hear it because I try and keep an open mind about things. But it's difficult, isn't it, when you already don't like somebody? You already don't like somebody and then you're watching their interview, you tend to look for, you tend to notice, let's say, the more negative things that confirm what you already think about them, don't you? And I hold my hands up to that. That's a human trait. So anyway, of course, one of the allegations is against a very young girl, a 16-year-old girl. So not illegal in the UK, as he's at pains to tell us. But she's got a different view as well about that. She came out and spoke out. She said he did force himself upon her. Then you've just got to think, well, who do you believe? I mean, the other thing I think about Russell is, by his own admission, he's, been an addict forever. Before he was even famous, he was already on rugs. So would he even really remember anything? He says he remembers it all in this interview. Oh yeah, he remembers it all. But again, actually high as a kite most of the time. It's probably all a bit of a blur, I would imagine. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe there are things that he doesn't remember where he got carried away. And wouldn't he be better off just admitting that? I suppose he's thinking of the court case and they're serious allegations. He doesn't want to go to prison. I think he may well go to prison. Anyway, the other thing that's happened, of course, is he's discovered. God, funny how many sort of criminals do that, don't they? When there's nowhere else to turn. So he's been apparently, as Piers Morgan points out to him in this interview, he was an atheist originally, then he was a Buddhist, now he's a Christian, a born-again Christian. And not only that, I mean, that's great. And honestly, anyone who finds God and finds a way of living their life, but he's a performative Christian. He took a Bible into court with him. Do you know, what was the point of that? It's like, I'm surprised Hugh Edwards didn't do that, actually. That's like, he sort of virtually walked into court with this, showing this, look at me, I'm a Christian, look at me, I'm a Christian. Now, maybe it was for comfort, and that's fair enough, but why put it on show like that? This whole persona, for me, just doesn't work. And the other thing that I've always or never understood about him, he always looks like he needs a good wash, doesn't he? And what's this showing off his chest all the time? Can't he wear a button-up shirt for once? Why does he think everybody wants to see his chest? What does he think, that if he shows his chest like that, people will believe him? Maybe it's part of his trademark because he's always done it. But I always find that when men do that, literally show, especially in this day and age. I mean, it's not like years ago when maybe, that was what people did, unbutton the shirt, showed their hair, and a big medallion man type thing. But why is he doing that? It's almost, to me, I find that, and I know this will sound ridiculous to some people, but it's almost like an assault in itself on your eyes, because you don't want to see his chest. So after I'm watching the interview, listening to the interview, and sort of closing my eyes, because it's like I don't know, it's almost like exhibitionism, isn't it? Like he's in a park exposing himself. It's, sometimes people do it on social media, someone will be on their profile pic on Facebook. You just got them in their chest. And you just think, why have you put why is your profile picture on Facebook you naked from the waist up? Why? I don't know. To me, it's almost like an assault in itself. That's my opinion anyway, just the way maybe I'm overreacting, but it does make me sort of cringe a little bit. But anyway, he must think his chest looks brilliant, and I don't know what the purpose of it is. Is it just he likes it? Does he think women like it? Does he just think it makes him look cool? Is it just part of his trademark? But there's just something about him that's I just don't like, and I have tried to like him because some of his views I agree with. It's like everything else. When you listen to someone with controversial views like Russell, there are things that he says that you think, yeah, I agree with you there. It's not like I disagree with everything he says, but he can't. Well, we'll see in this. We're not watching the whole interview because it's quite a long one, but I'm going to show you bits of it. It's like he can't answer a straight question either. So, when we're talking about the anti-vaccine, vaxxer thing, and Piers Morgan asked him, are you an anti-vaxxer? Have your children been vaccinated? He never answers it. Why not? Why doesn't he answer it? That's how I just think, why? So either your children have been vaccinated or they haven't, and it's not wrong to say, well, although I didn't believe in the COVID vaccine, I do believe in the vaccines for children because polio and I don't know, all the illnesses that have been cured by vaccines. But vaccines will always be contentious, won't they? I remember when my son was little, I was umming and ahhing about all these vaccines because there's people saying, oh no, vaccines are terrible, all the side effects, and then other people saying, oh, they must have their vaccines, otherwise he could end up getting, I don't know, mumps or whooping cough, for example. So you as a parent, you're making that decision. You want to make the right decision for your child. But there's people on all sides of the debate, competing for your. Anyway, I did vaccinate my son. He's had all his vaccinations, and I'm glad that did. Luckily for me, he didn't have any adverse reactions. I know some people have adverse reactions to vaccines. So it is, a scary thing. But I remember, I think what swayed me finally in the end, years ago, she got whooping cough. Oh my God, it's horrible, horrible. If you've ever seen anyone with whooping cough or heard them, a child can't breathe, you wouldn't hesitate in having the vaccine. But anyway, yeah, COVID vaccines are a whole nother thing. There's still a lot of contention about it. There probably was mistakes made because there was a big rush, wasn't there, for the COVID vaccine? Because, millions of people were dying. And I think, again, if you've, I think I've had 3 COVID vaccines. I won't be having another one. Every year here in Spain, they invite you for another. I believe in vaccines. I know quite a few people who died of COVID, unvaccinated people. And that, again, is just horrible, horrible, horrible. So it's a decision people take. Now, it's not obligatory, is it? You don't have to have a COVID vaccine, though, of course, in some professions you did have to have it. And there was a point where you had to show your COVID vaccination, otherwise you couldn't travel and things like that. But, COVID feels like the world's never been the same since COVID. It caused so many, and people were divided over it, whether you should vaccinate or not, or wear a mask or not. Anyway, thankfully, it's sort of, now we don't have to think about it so much, though it's still around, of course. It's a weakened strain now, isn't it? So anyway, so Russell was, he talks about big pharma. He's very anti-big pharma and vaccines. But as I say, when Piers Morgan asked him, "Have your children been vaccinated?" he wouldn't answer. I just find that really weird. And to me, that suggests that yes, they have been vaccinated, and he doesn't want to say they have because part of his raison d'etre at the moment with his rants on Rumble is an anti-vaccine, so he won't admit that his children have been vaccinated. But you just could, from his dodging the question, to me, when someone dodges the question, means the answer is affirmative, doesn't it? Have your children been vaccinated? The answer is yes, but he just doesn't want to admit it. Anyway, I'll let you sort of make your own mind up about that. So we're going to watch the interview, as I say, not the whole interview. I'm going to skip through bits of it. But personally, I think this interview is a bit like the Andrew interview when he was a prince with Emily Maitlis. Don't know why I thought it was a good idea. Probably because he's promoting his book, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days. Now, I don't know that people need to really read that, but I suppose some people would be interested in how Russell Brand became a Christian after being an atheist and a Buddhist. And, we're all searching for something in our lives, and, maybe we will, we do go through stages of trying different things, looking for some peace in our lives or some meaning, and maybe it's unfair to sort of judge him like that, but it just seems a bit coincidental to me that suddenly just before he's going into court he becomes a Christian and then he's carrying a Bible around with him. That straight away, just to me, when someone has to thrust that, he thrusts everything in your face, doesn't he? His chest, his Bible, this, it's like, look at this. It's like he's got to point it out to you. And funnily enough, that's what that young girl said, that he thrust something else in her face. So, maybe he is a bit of a thruster, isn't he? He's a thruster. It's like, and we see that in this interview as well. It's like, listen to me, I'm talking. And what you'll see is when he wants, he keeps grabbing Piers Morgan by the shoulder. And have you ever had a friend who does that? I don't really see them now, but a friend who does that all the time. So when they're talking and you go to say something, she would put her hand on your arm like that and literally hold your arm. So it's like, shut up, I'm in control of this conversation, you be quiet. And you sort of like don't know what to do. Anyway, I sort of started noticing this. So one day, as we were talking, and she tried to interject in something I was saying, I did the same to her, and I put my hand on her arm and held her arm. Oh my God, she squirmed like, oh my God, you would have thought it was, like fire around her arm. I mean, what I found with narcissists and people like Russell, they do these things, but if you do exactly the same thing back to them, they just can't cope with it. So, people say you should grey rock a narcissist and ignore them completely. But another thing I've found that works is just reflect their behaviour back at them. So what they do, like that, holding somebody, I mean, who does that? When you're talking to someone and you want them, who holds on to someone because they want to get their point across? Why can't they just, I just don't understand why they have to do that. It's like suppression, isn't it? But if you do it back, just not only that, other things. I've got somebody who I know who messages me from time to time, and their behaviour, they're just in the messages. I've sort of cottoned onto it now. I just do back to them exactly what they've done to me, and they get so angry. It's really quite funny. Or like if you've got someone who's always late, be late for them and see what happens. Some people only think their time is important, don't they? So I'm talking about people habitually late and not just 5 minutes late, but maybe 30 minutes late, keeping you hanging around, not valuing your time. You try being late for them once, see what happens. Oh my God, they can't cope, they go into a meltdown. So it's funny, isn't it? People's behaviour, just, in general, this is just a general thing that I've noticed in my long life. If you reflect people's behaviour back to them, they just don't like it. They can't cope with it. And sometimes that's the best way of dealing with it. Or grey rock them, yeah, completely. Just ignore them. But anyway, yeah, so Russell's behaviour in this interview, and Piers Morgan, as much as he's a bit of a narcissist, I think anyone in it, the entertainment industry, they've got to be at least a little bit of a narcissist, in my opinion, because, there is a certain type of person who seeks fame and stardom, really. And Piers Morgan, he's got his I always really enjoyed watching Piers Morgan until he started getting obsessed with Meghan, and then it just seems like stalkerish behaviour to me. It's too much. He doesn't like her, but goes on and on and on about it, and it's just boring in the end. So that's the only criticism I've really got of Piers Morgan. But I think he's a very good interviewer. I've always thought he was a very good interviewer. He does these prison interviews that you can get up on YouTube, where he goes and interviews killers, and I like him because he's not frightened of asking the questions, even though it might upset the person. He just asks honest questions. That's what I think, anyway. So I do enjoy his interviews, and of course he did Piers Morgan's life stories. He's a good interviewer. He seems to be able to ask questions, not shy away from difficult questions. But he doesn't put his hand on people to make them shut up, even though obviously he in his own admission, he's opinionated as well. But he doesn't like grab hold of someone's hand and, hold them down while he expresses his view, which is what Russell was doing. Grab it, where you can see in the little picture up in the corner there. Often, in fact, I'm going to put that picture on big, because I think this picture just epitomizes, to be honest, just epitomizes the whole interview in one photo. You've got them sat there together. Sorry, just let me upload it. You've got them sat there together. Piers's face is a picture. I mean, this was a very, very good interview by Piers. I'd say I like his interviews in general, but I think let's put this picture up. So yeah, look, he did this. Look at Piers's face. Piers was just looking at the camera like, and Russell, because he look, he's got this great big cross hanging from his chest, all his bare chest showing, which I just don't know why he does that. Why can't he, wear a normal shirt? And yeah, there he is. Every time he wanted to get his point across and shut up Piers, he just put his. It's like a suppression, that. As I say, I had a friend who did that, and I did it back to her once, and they hate it. If you try and do it to them, they hate it, because they know I'm trying to talk. How dare you try and make me be quiet? But anyway, so first of all, thank you to everyone. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Special thank you to my members. We've got members live coming up this Thursday. So if you want to join in that live, that's normally be a chit chat, and then it depends what's happening on the day. Who knows what might have happened in this crazy world by Thursday. But anyway, we'll be having a chat and you can ask me questions and things like that. So if you want to join, we're having a members live on Thursday. Thank you to those of you who send Ko-fis, super stickers, PayPal me, etc. All that. Other ways that people support my channel or send me emails, leave nice comments. Thank you so much. And don't forget to leave your DNA on the like button and the subscribe button. Absolutely free. And remember to press the notification bell so you get notifications of new videos. So let's have a look. So it started off. So what Piers Morgan said, that he knew it was going to be an interesting interview. I mean, it certainly was an interesting interview. I've got to give it that. Though Russell Brandy does go on and on and on. The other thing Russell does is he uses all these big words, doesn't he? So he tries to confuse people by coming out with all these big words, and apparently where he used to read the dictionary, that's what he says in this interview. Piers brings it up and he said, oh yeah, I did used to do that, looking for words. Where is it? On, just got to find it. Yet again, yeah, but all set up. And there it is. No, that's not it. Where's the bloody interview gone? Where do these things disappear to? I'd like to know. But anyway, it's okay. I'll just find it again. But okay, so now Russell has been accused of being a grifter. I don't think he's a grifter, to be honest. That isn't how I would describe him, to be fair. I think he's a gaslighter. I don't know if he's a grifter, but I do think what according to the flavour of the day, maybe he doesn't really know who he is yet, or some people take a long time, if ever, to find out actually who they are, don't they? So maybe that's why they're in it.
This is the first interview done with any Brit since allegations. You are slightly hypersensitive.
Okay, so this is where it even starts practically, because
where the truth lies. You're going to basically go through a process which could end up with you going to prison for a long period of time.
I did sleep with a 16-year-old when I was 30.
Here in New York, it would have been a crime.
We are going to find out the truth, and if the truth is I am going to prison, my job will be, do not be afraid of that truth.
This Bible, actually, I think, was this one you took in?
Correct. Thank you for asking.
This is the first interview done with any Brit since the allegations. You are slightly hypersensitive to anyone challenging you, because most of the media you do, you don't really get challenged.
Excuse me.
Amidst the rape allegations, the Shagger of the Year titles do not seem quite as valuable. Some of the shine's come off.
You only became a Christian 7 months after the allegations were made public. You worked out that this...
Yeah, so apparently in his heyday, that chest, honestly, I just can't help but look at it, and why is he showing off his chest like that? I just don't get it. Blech. Anyway, in his heyday, he was given the dubious title of Shagger of the Year quite a few times, I think. It's funny, isn't it, how times have changed? You know, he probably quite enjoyed getting that title. Now he'll wish that he'd never had that title, of course, because it all goes against him now. The other thing that you'll find that comes up in this interview when Piers asks him, you know, what made you become a Christian? You know, you've been an atheist, then you were a Buddhist, and now you're a Christian. What changed? And he says, oh, I read this Bible verse and it changed my life. And then he couldn't find the verse. So we're going to watch that. He's found it now. So 2 days later, he made a video to say, oh, I found that Bible verse now. So this is the Bible verse that apparently changed his life, but he couldn't remember what it was. I mean, you know, this is the because he's a performative Christian. It's not genuine. You know, if you were genuinely had some sort of epiphany where you would remember that moment where suddenly everything seemed clear to you, you know, that Christ existed, and you know, you would, especially if it was to do with something that a passage that you read that, you know, hit you like a thunderbolt, according to him. He couldn't remember it and he couldn't find it, you know. So just a gaslighter, this guy.
Could give you some kind of cover. You know, there are people who think you're basically just a massive grifter.
No, that's what they say about you. You actually, Piers,
good.
Calm down.
Yeah, and quite often that's the other thing, of course, that like he was very sensitive to that. People think you're a massive grifter. And he said, oh, well, that's what people think about you, actually. That's what psychopaths do. They turn things around on people. You know I am, but what about you? You know that. So all this pseudo-Christianity, to me, is a pseudo-Christian. I don't believe he's really a Christian, that he really believes it. It doesn't come over to me as authentic or genuine. And he's very easy, and Piers managed to do it several times. It's very easy to rub up the wrong way. And if he really genuinely had found peace with Christianity, all those things would go beyond him, wouldn't they? You know, if he's called a massive grifter, people will say those kind of things. I personally don't think of him as a grifter. I think he's a pseudo-intellectual, a pseudo-Christ, he's a pseudo-everything. And, you know, probably that's part of all the drugs he took when he was young. His head's probably all over the place. I think it's still all over the place. Now he's married now with children. He's settled down. A lot of these type of people do, don't they? They lead hedonistic lifestyles. And then eventually, you know, they just want some stability, security. And I think that's what's happened with Russell. But of course, now his past is catching up with him. Because unfortunately for Russell, the climate that we live in now, there's a lot of these historic cases coming out there. He won't be the only one. He won't be the only one. He's just been the unlucky one, really, that has been talked about, found out about. There's loads more out there in the entertainment industry. He won't be the only one. And of course, let's not forget how he got cancelled in the end. It was him and his mate, Jonathan Ross. And now I love Jonathan Ross, but I bet he's got things, you know, if it ever came out, because he comes from that same era. You know, it's the same era where, you know, it was almost, to get the title Shagger of the Year was, you know, something to think is good. You know, whereas now nobody would want that title, would they? Because we live in a completely different era now, different climate. But, you know, so him and Jonathan Ross, who were like best buddies, rang up the niece of, is it Leonard Sachs, the guy who played Manuel in Fawlty Towers? They either rang up him and were saying things about her, or they rang her up. Anyway, they did something totally ridiculous. but only Russell got cancelled. Now, somehow Jonathan got away with it, but perhaps Jonathan, it was the way he dealt with it afterwards, Jonathan Ross, and he's still on mainstream telly to this day, isn't he? And yeah, I enjoy watching Jonathan Ross, but I bet there's not many people from the entertainment industry from their era that really somebody couldn't come forward and say something that they did that was wrong. Now, his allegations are far more serious than just, making sexist comments or whatever. The allegations against Russell Brand are assaults, sex assault, etc. So they're much more serious. But I bet anyone from that era, there's somebody could step forward and say, oh, well, he did this to me and this, this was terrible. It was a completely different era, and I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm just saying that's how it was. It was what it was. Now, Russell, maybe he got cancelled because of his other views as well. Like Russell, he starts off this interview with Piers, saying like, Piers, that there's only some people get attacked and other people don't, and there's only certain views you're allowed to express on the mainstream media. That's why we're on social media. And I sort of agree with him up to that point. I think most people that have been journalists or presenters, etc., in mainstream media will say, there's a certain, even, you look at people like Sonia Poulton, etc., and Katie, what's her name? I nearly said Katie Price, but the other Katie Hopkins. You can only, on mainstream media, there's a certain thing that you're allowed to say or do, or, you've virtually given a script, really, aren't you? You can't go beyond the boundaries, but whereas on social media, people can go beyond the boundaries. So I agree with him with that. As I said, there are some things that I do agree with him with. But really, Russell is never really owning the sort of person he was. He sort of makes out he is, but it's not. I bet he can't even remember what he did all those years ago because he was so high on drugs. Of course, then he married Katy Perry, didn't he? But that was a toxic relationship. She had her own issues. That didn't last very long, did it? But anyway, he's settled down now. Wouldn't he be better off just holding his hands up to everything and saying, look, this was me then, this is me now? But he's still clinging on to this. No, I didn't do it. Well, he obviously did.
And slow down.
It's a serious question.
I want you to calm down and slow down.
This sense that you were somehow singled out, targeted deliberately. A lot of people think that's honestly bullshit.
I can't actually find the verse that I had that day.
You were an atheist.
I were a maniac.
Well, yes. That's what some people.
A Scientologist.
That's what some people think.
Hitler. What do you think about Hitler?
Russell Brand means many things to many people. He's the boisterous comic with a silver tongue and a savage wit. He's the eccentric British movie star with big words and even bigger hair. To some, he's a fearless truth seeker. To others, an oddball conspiracist. But whether he's reviled or revered, and it's usually one or the other, almost everybody finds him fascinating. And in recent years, his mutual embrace of magical guessing. So book. And surrounding it all, of course, are the very grave allegations that he's now fighting, all of which will make for, I'm sure, a very interesting, uncensored interview. Russell Brand joins me now. Russell, good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
It's sort of weird to see you in this context because I first interviewed you in 2006, 20 years ago. We sat and did a uproarious interview for GQ. I'll come to that in a moment. We did another big one for ITV, for my life story show about your whole extraordinary life. We did a big one at CNN here in New York when your divorce from Katy Perry was just coming through. So I feel like I've been around your world, your orbit, and I've seen you at lots of events and things along the way as well. But I don't really know you. Like I know a bit about you, and I know you in a media context. I don't really know you. I wouldn't consider myself to be your friend, or somebody that has an intimate knowledge of what you're really like. And one of the more interesting things about you, I would say, is that I don't know where the truth lies about these allegations. And I don't want to try and find out whether my instincts are one way or another. We can't talk about what's coming in October, the case, for legal reasons. It wouldn't feel right to me anyway to talk about it, because you've got to go through the due process. But as we sit here, you're innocent till proven guilty. I believe fundamentally in that principle. You're entitled to due process. And to those who will criticize, as I'm sure some will, the mere fact I'm giving you a platform and interviewing you, I say that this matters.
Yeah, so we have to remember that. He hasn't been found guilty. He is innocent till he's found guilty. That is the mainstay of our society, isn't it? Hi, Nigel. I agree with you. I don't know why he did this interview. To me, Russell would have been better served, if you like, just keeping a low profile until this is all over. It's almost like he can't help himself. Now, I know he's promoting his book because, of course, he's not only done this interview, he did the Megyn Kelly interview where he talked openly about the 16-year-old girl. He says it was a consensual relationship. He was in a different place then. There's probably lots of 30-year-old men that have gone out with 16-year-old girls. But I think the other problem he's got there is what she's been saying about their relationship. And even though she may have been 16, which is legal in the UK, still, it's just a child, really, isn't it? It's a questionable choice of relationship. I just think he'd be better off just saying it was really, I should never have done it, but that was just the place I was in. I don't know what he can say now to make people, forgive him, if you like. But I think this throwing his Bible in our faces it's just not working. People can see through it. Performative religion, Christianity or anything. Oh, I've done enough videos about true crimes to know that church-going people, often the ones that fling their religion in your face, they're the ones who are the most evil. They go to church on Sunday. Look at Hugh Edwards. He's like prissy Hugh Edwards with his wife and 5 children and not doing these programs about the churches in Wales and stuffing his religion down our throats. But not only that, over in America, the pastors, the preachers, how often do they turn out to be the perpetrators of terrible crimes? So the thing is, religion and going to church and holding a Bible does mean absolutely nothing if you don't abide by the Bible. Either you're a Christian or you're not, and you believe in Christian values, and not only believe in them and say you believe in them, but actually do them. Don't have to thrust it in someone's face and say, look, I'm a Christian because I'm carrying a Bible. It's like with my books on learning Spanish, when my students say to me, oh, will I learn Spanish with this book? It's like, well, yeah, as long as you pick it up and read it, not just like carrying it around with you in your bag or putting it on the shelf. Like, oh, I've got that Spanish book there. That's not what's going to teach you Spanish. Just like thrusting the Bible in someone's face is not going to make you a Christian. You have to actually do it, So I don't know. It just gives me. He's an intelligent man. He's almost too intelligent. When I watch him talking, I wonder if he's not bipolar, because I don't know if anybody knows out there if he is or not, or if he's ever been diagnosed as that. But I've been in contact with people with bipolar, and when they start speaking, especially when it's combined with drugs. He's supposedly clean now, isn't he? I think he doesn't take any drugs now, does he? Or even drink, I don't think. I think he's given up all that. But this, when they talk, and he starts off all calm here. You can tell he's been told to stay calm, but he just can't. As the interview goes on, he can't, and he starts talking, and then it's like he can't get enough words out all at once. To me, and I'm not an expert. I'm only talking from personal experience with people with bipolar. They can't stop talking once they start. It's like, even though they're trying to be restrained or trying, etc., they just cannot. They just can't stop talking. They just got. It's almost like Tourette's.
Until proven guilty matters. And so in the context of that, I'm very happy to talk to you. But given I've known you so long, my first question is just, how are you feeling about the fact that in a few months' time, in a southeast London courtroom with 12 jurors sitting there, you're going to basically, over a period of about 2 months, go through a process which could end up with you going to prison for a long period of time if you're convicted. It's hard to imagine on a human level a more tumultuous thing to happen to you, not even given what you've been through in your life. So how are you feeling about it?
Tumultuous is a perfect word, because it is like a storm. And sometimes I feel like I'm comfortable in the eye of the storm, where there can be calm and at least the capacity to observe. And at other times, it feels all-consuming and frightening and pressurizing, like a storm also would be, in almost every conceivable way. I was just thinking, as you did that introduction, I reckon you write your stuff yourself. Did you write the introduction?
I have a writer, actually.
Oh, well, when you sort of the sort of variation that was introduced, like he's revered or reviled, and sometimes I feel like.
Right, so as I said, I'm not going to play the whole interview because it's long, but you can obviously go on the YouTube if you want to watch every bit of it. But I think it's interesting now. He starts off there. You can tell he's trying to be calm. He's trying to be, but he just can't help himself because as time goes on, and of course, he starts getting very defensive. Peers asking questions, and he gets defensive about it. Let's move forward a little bit. I want to see, and then of course he starts this. Let's see. There is that one. It starts this holding on to
drug users and stuff. Frankly, all of the films I made, there wasn't an enormous range at hand there in that film career there. But the reason I remember is because I was there, because I'm present, and because the whole thing was very live and alive. I have a good memory, and particularly, obviously, this is something I've had to reflect on and go through.
You were.
So now he's saying he's got a good memory, but he doesn't remember these. On another, in other times, he's saying, no, he can't remember these things. He doesn't remember these incidents. I mean, what's the truth? Does he remember them or doesn't he? I mean, was he so high as a kite all the time that he doesn't remember, or does he remember? He's full of contradictions, Russell. And I still wish just put a proper shirt on. Russell. Why is he wearing that?
Clean from 2002.
December the 13th, 2002 is the date I got.
Some of the allegations go back to 99, so there must have been some crossover.
Oh, well, without wanting to get into the specificity of the criminal matter, that's not generally the complexion, and in the variation from that generality, there are other indicators that make it clear that my memory is reliable.
Did you understand that? So he's full of word salad, Russell. You know, he shouldn't have done this interview. I tell you why, because if, as he says, he can't go into details because of a court case, which is fair enough, why is he even doing an interview? Why would you be doing an interview when you're up on serious charges that you can't talk about because of the legalities of everything? Why do this interview? Now, apparently he wasn't paid for it, so it wasn't like financially, for a financial reason, though he is promoting his book, so maybe it's financial reason in a roundabout way like that, but it wasn't paid for this interview, so we can't presume that he did it for the payoff. Then why did he do it? I mean, it just seems like, you know, now he says in this interview his wife is a very calm, very level person. Surely she could then have said to him, don't do this interview. Or does he have like publicists or, you know, advisors? If I was his advisor, immediately I would have said to him, what are you talking about, an interview with Piers Morgan? You know, because Piers Morgan, whatever anyone thinks of him, he is a good interviewer, and he always asks the difficult questions. Anybody knows that, especially on Piers Morgan in Uncensored, because now he's just doing it himself on his social media platform. He doesn't have to worry about, you know, the BBC saying, oh, you can't say that, or ITV or whatever. You know, he doesn't have to worry about anything, so he can say what he wants, he can ask what he wants. He's got this massive platform on YouTube now. So anybody would know that. Surely, if you know, why go on this interview? Just honestly do not understand why he did it. I mean, it would give him a lot of exposure, that's for sure. But no, it hasn't given him the right exposure. Not, you know, and with a court case coming up, it just seems like crazy to do it.
The interesting thing, I was listening to your Megyn Kelly interview yesterday, and it's blown up. We're both in New York, and you know it's blown up big in America today. A lot of people commenting about this. Let's play the clip for those who haven't heard it.
In Europe and in the United Kingdom, where I'm from, the age of consent is 16, and I did sleep with a 16-year-old when I was 30. But when I was 30, I was a very different person. I was a lot younger, and I was an immature 30-year-old. Consensual sex, actually, with a variety of people, a famous man that has the ability to attract women that I had at that time, I think involves exploitation.
What's been interesting is the way that's played out, because you were right in what you said. It was perfectly legal for you to have sex with a 16-year-old girl in the UK. That's the law. In America, here in New York, for example, the age of consent is 17. So here it would have been a crime had you done that here. But I looked at every state in America because I thought it was I saw some people commenting on this on social media. In about 30 states in America, the age of consent is 16, the same as the UK. I'm not even sure most Americans are aware of that. About another dozen states, it's 17, another dozen or so, it's 18. So there's no uniformity around America, but actually in the majority of states in America, it's the same as the United Kingdom, and therefore would not be a crime. Now, again, people can take a moral view about it. I think you took a moral view about what you were doing then. Interestingly, the GQ interview happened when you were about that age.
Yeah.
So it was going on then. And you used the word exploitative. Some people I've seen latch onto this and say, well, yeah, so he knows what he's doing is wrong. He knows that was wrong. What is that line for you between exploiting as a 30-year-old man, a 16-year-old girl, to the point where it becomes criminal potentially? What is that line for you?
I suppose it's consent, Piers,
Right.
in varying ways in different places. People have a understanding which probably isn't wholly accurate and reliable, that at a certain age, a person is able to make a consensual decision to smoke a cigarette or vote or have sex or gamble. And these things vary according to jurisdiction and type of law. And in the place where I was both emotionally and spiritually and geographically, that was a legal thing to be doing, but not a morally sound thing to be doing.
I've been struck by a lot of people on the conservative right in America are furious about what they perceive to be a revelation. It wasn't a revelation to me because it's been talked about before and reported widely. Are you taken aback because you've moved here, you live in Florida, you've sort of embraced the MAGA move book, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days.
How to become a Christian in 7 days? Why does it even take you 7 days to become? He had an epiphany where he read a Bible verse and then suddenly he was a Christian. You know, it doesn't take 7 days to become a Christian, does it? I mean, also, I do, my own personal opinion, just from my own experience, is you don't just become a Christian and then that's it, because you do go through periods of doubt with your beliefs. You know, you become a Christian, you know, and then something terrible happens maybe in your life, and sometimes you do doubt God. I think most Christians, if they're honest, you know, sometimes, because we all have good days and bad days, and you know, it is actually referenced in the Bible, doubting Thomas. You know, we're all doubting. None of us, surely, you know, we're human beings. You know, I think I am a Christian, and I believe probably 98% of the time, but I'm just being honest, there are days when I hear about something terrible that's happened, or, you know, or something terrible happens to me, and I do doubt sometimes, because, you know, I just can't believe that God would let that happen. I think we all feel like that, don't we? So, well, anyway, I don't know. I'm sure some people have got 100% faith that never wavers, and honestly, I wish I was one of those people. And I've been watching a series on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called The Unchosen. It's very interesting. Set in the UK, about a cult. And I mean, it is a fictional thing, but there will be cults. Apparently, there's loads of cults in the UK. So there will be cults out there, you know, Christian cults like that. And do they always believe? And if they do have doubts, what do they do? Get together with the other people? Do you go to, or maybe if you're a Catholic, you go to your confessor and say, you know, forgive me, Father, I've sinned, I've had doubts about God, or, you know, now I'm getting really philosophical. But anyway, so that's his book, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days. Might be very interesting book. You know, he's an interesting man. That's one thing that I think you can't take away from Russell Brand. He is sort of intriguing because of his, you know, just everything. And it'd be interesting to know what he thinks about this young girl now, because he's got children, hasn't he? I don't know if they're girls or not. How would he feel about his daughter being 16 and coming home with a 30-year-old man? You know, I think most parents would not approve of that. But as he says, he was in a different place then. He was younger. He was immature. He probably was an immature 30-year-old. He was a drug-taking 30-year-old as well. And he was on this crest. You know, personally, I think more appropriate. He was like on a crest of a wave with his fame, wasn't he? There's something about fame. You know, do people, you know, when they get put on a pedestal like that, I think, you know, should there be some sort of psychological help for people who become famous, because they seem to think they can do what the hell they want, isn't it? It doesn't matter, because they almost become like bigger than themselves, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm sure some famous people do stay humble, you know, if they're grounded and they've got like maybe a different, of course, we've all got our different personalities as well. You know, some people are just more grounded, aren't they? And they just are more sensible and they, you know, they can cope with fame. But it's like people chase fame, but actually quite often when they get it, they can't cope with it. And, you know, he found that he was famous. Women were probably all over him, and even young girls, you know, young girls do throw themselves at people. Some girls do. I mean, that's, you know, I remember when I was a teenager, we used to go and hang around outside the BBC studios in Manchester, in Key Street, I think it was. Loads of teenagers were looking to meet the, I don't know, the radio stars, the TV stars, footballers that used to go there. You know, that, you know, the young girls will do that. You know, it's so. But the thing is, it's not their fault because they're just younger. We were like 14. That's what, you know, girls, you know, I wasn't. So, and some young girls do look older than others. But it is the responsibility of the person, the man or a woman, if it's the other way around, the adult, the 30-year-old has the responsibility, not the 15-year-old, or, you know, because. But the trouble with Russell is he wasn't mature enough, was he, to realise he was probably still thinking he's 16 in his head, and he's probably not seeing that vast sort of how awful it would look to the outside world, you know. And I think when I was 16, I don't know how I would have felt, you know, if that would have happened to me. If you met somebody famous and they're sending a limo for you and, you know, buying you nice things and this, that, and the other. It's easy to turn the head of a young girl or a young lad, really. But the onus is on the older person, isn't it, to not do that. You know, it can't be like, oh, well, you know, yeah, but she threw herself at me, you know, blah, de, blah, de, blah. You have the responsibility to be the responsible one, not the young person. And you know who he also reminds me of? And I've just got a video ready that I just want to show you just quickly. He reminds me of D4VD or VD or Burke, David Burke, who's killed, allegedly murdered Celeste Rivas. Reminds me a lot of him when you see him talking. And is it that, let's just show that. Make sure it's like that. Do they just think they're above everything? I don't know. Is it because people are telling them how brilliant they are, and, you know, do they get like this Jesus complex themselves? So when you watch David talking, Berkey, David.
So why even go into a studio environment?
I do for the producers and the collaborators. I love, you know, just keeping and building a rapport with the people that I work with. And I don't want to, you know, I don't want to become a myth. Like, I don't want to like, oh, that's David. Like, he doesn't ever work with people. He doesn't do sessions. Like, don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be.
You know, I think this interview was after Celeste died. But do they just become so pretentious because everybody's telling them how brilliant they are? And, you know, David, to me, this guy, I have a simmering anger towards this guy. Now he was 20, I think, so not you know, not 30, but even so, a grown man, and Celeste was only 12, 13, 14. We don't know exactly when they started seeing each other. But he's another one. He's so pretentious. He's full of himself. He talks a lot about Christ, and no doubt he'll be trotting out a Bible when he goes for his trial or whatever, talking about God. There's loads of interviews where he's, you know, making all this pretentious talk. about Jesus and about God. And in the meantime, he's allegedly murdered a young girl for financial gain, and, you know, dismembered her and put her in the front of his car. And then he sat doing his interviews with his black nail varnish on, and, you know, just loving himself. You know, what is it? These psychopaths.
You know, that guy. I want to be, you know, personable and come into the studio, be welcomed into places and work with people. But then I also take songs back from the studio and re-record them on BandLab. So it still gets that nice workflow. But I do prefer working by myself nowadays. Yeah.
And by the way, like producers like Ryan Tedder,
Mhm.
and the truth is, like, if you don't go in and like learn with, like, working with these people means you learn.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're bettering yourself, right?
Right. I mean, Ryan Tedder was definitely still is a big mentor for me, and just like the songwriting process and how to structure songs, because I came with.
Anyway, in another video, we're going to look at some of David's interviews, and oh my God. So he's another one. So I'm sorry, I know Russell hasn't murdered anyone as far as we know, but he reminds me, it's this similar sort of God complex. To me, it's a God complex. It's like, I don't know, just too much. Is it does fame turn someone's head that much? You know, because David was another one like Russell, came from an ordinary background. You know, these are not people that are born into entertainment families and stuff like that. You know, he's sort of, I don't know how he got famous, Russell, to be honest. How did Russell Brand get famous? You know, I'm just not really quite sure, to be honest. But, you know, David made himself famous on TikTok. You know, he did well. He came from nothing and made himself something. So that's something you can say about David. But then he took that fame. It's like, obviously to a more extreme degree than Russell, but it's like they had all that fame and everything, really. Russell, you know, had what a lot of people would long for. Do you know what I mean? It's like a successful career, plenty of money. Then he married Katy Perry. You know, he had sort of everything going for him, but it's like he just couldn't handle it. Is this, and we hear now of so many entertainment stars, you know, things coming out about them. You're just waiting for the next one, really, aren't you, most of the time? Thinking, who will be next? Is it this sort of potent combination of money and fame that would tempt anybody, you know, to do things that they shouldn't do? Because people, you know, just think they're omnipotent once they've got all this adulation and fame and money. Do they just think, you know, they can do what the hell they want? I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Is it because it's in human nature to do these things? But of course, most people, they don't get the opportunity to do them because they haven't got the money, or they haven't, you know, they can't attract women the same. I mean, there will have been women throwing themselves at Russell. There will have been. You know, I'm not saying that excuses him doing anything, but, you know, he won't have had to look very hard for women. Do you know what I mean? Women will have wanted him for some unknown reason that's beyond me. But anyway, they will have done. So why spoil, you know, and nobody would hold him responsible for that. You know, if it'd be like, oh, he's a young man, you know, sown his wild oats. So why go out with a 16-year-old? You know, why not just, it's like, whoa, you know, straight away when you find out someone's 16, that's not on. Might be legal, but it's not ethically right when you're 30. So it might even be different if you were 40 and they were 26. That doesn't feel so bad, does it? But 16 and 30 does feel bad. You know, it seems like it's not so much the age difference, it's the age of the younger person. And someone who's 26 going out with a 40-year-old somehow doesn't seem so bad as someone of 16 and a 30-year-old, does it? Or what do you think? Let me know. Maybe it does.
Do you accept many millions of people die from COVID, do you?
I'm so uncertain about what happened at that time that I believe that I use it mostly now as a kind of lens to look at how do I have a better one. Because I have a better one.
What's the better one?
Who believes, even for an instant, that the function of government and media is to protect us and take care of us anymore? Who believes that they would put you in your homes and make you take a medication to preserve human life? I'm not talking about the wonderful staff at NHS hospitals or brilliant doctors or even magnificent scientists. I'm talking about this set of interconnected interests that are sometimes difficult to describe, visible in silhouette, evident in the Epstein files.
Now, I don't think he should have brought up the Epstein files, really, not with his checkered history. This is what I mean. Why has he even done this interview? He's got a court case coming up. Talking about the Epstein files, he's anyway, never mind. I'll never understand why he's done this interview. But the question that Piers Morgan has asked him is, are your children vaccinated? And he won't answer. So instead of answering the question, either yes, they are, or no, they're not, he started on this, and so this is where he starts to really hype up. He started off trying to be calm, and he starts to go off on one about, because he believes in, believes the state is wrong, doesn't he? And they don't. And do you know what? Russell Brand, to me, is the perfect example of why you do need the state. Because if you didn't have the state and we were all sovereign citizens, like Desi Freeman wanted us to be, for murdering 2 police officers was a legitimate thing to do in the name of freedom. If we didn't have a state, who would we be turning to when we needed something? To Russell Brand. Would you want Russell Brand in charge of policing, or who would do the policing if we didn't have a state? States aren't perfect, but if you've ever, if you're into philosophy and that, Jacques Rousseau, that is the social contract. We don't want a state, of course we don't, and we have to be vigilant with the state. We have to hold them accountable because they won't be perfect, and not every state agent, like every police man or woman, they're not all perfect because they're human beings. But imagine not having checks and balances, not having a procedure, complaints procedure, because people like Russell Brand or Desi Freeman were running your life. What would happen if your neighbour sat there and decided, oh, I don't like my car, oh, she's got a much nicer car next door? Not that that'll ever happen to me because I never have a nice car, but they've got bigger telly than me, or I like their house better, I don't really like my house. And your neighbour, as a sovereign citizen, decides, oh, I'm going to have your car, I'm going to have your house, I'm going to have your wife, or I'm going to, I fancy a change. And you haven't got anybody to call, to, like, when they turn up at your house and say, oh, by the way, you can have my old banger rust bucket of a car, I'm having your brand new Tesla. But there's no police to call, no state. It's just too stronger between you and the neighbour. Who's got a bigger gun, or who's more ruthless? So the neighbour decides that if you won't just let him have your car, he's going to shoot you. So I just don't understand this concept of sovereign citizen at all. I understand the concept of it, and I think, yeah, it'd be lovely in a utopian society, but utopia doesn't exist, does it? It's just, we're all human beings, and there are bad people out there, and there's, and if you're a Christian, the devil operates through people. There are bad people out there who are, almost possessed by demons, because Satan you believe in God, the devil is out there working as well. Not only God is trying to, whole life in general is a battle between good and evil. It literally is. Every decision, even little decisions that you make, your conscience telling you, oh, really, I want to do that, but I shouldn't do that because that's not fair on the other person. Now, a lot of us can operate like that, but you can't rely on people to do that. Some people don't have a conscience. They don't give a shit about anybody else. Imagine if we had a stateless society, all the psychopaths would rise to the top, because most normal people, they don't want to be leaders. They don't want to, make laws or enforce laws, or they just want to get on with their life, go to work, earn a decent wage, eat nice food, go out every now and again, have their hobbies, whatever they are. So the people that would rise to the top just would be psychopaths, because they like telling people what to do and they don't have any conscience about if that hurts somebody else. It just can't work. A sovereign citizenship, as nice as it all feels, the concept of it, the dream of it, in reality, in real life, it isn't going to work. So this guy, Russell Brand, he can't even answer Piers Morgan whether his children are vaccinated or not. And that to me is a sign of a liar. When they go round and round in circles, you ask someone a direct question, this is a yes or no answer. I've dealt with people like that in my personal life. It's just like, well, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? You're trying to fight, and they won't answer you directly. It's a yes or no answer. For God's sake. He can't give a yes or no answer as to whether his kids have been vaccinated or not.
Obvious when wars happen that you don't anticipate happening, but somehow seemed inevitable, and clear
What would
more
you
than
out of interest,
anything during the COVID period.
Had you been prime minister?
I get it.
Had you been prime minister when the COVID pandemic broke out, what would you have done?
All right, this is what I would do: is I would immediately.
Just to put it in context, you're seeing in Italy, in Lombardy, they're seeing thousands of people a day.
I know.
Dying,
I remember
dying because they lived in big family groups in houses.
Yes.
And it was ripping through them, as it did through our care homes, for example.
I'd pay attention to them hazmat suits in China that suddenly disappeared, and those stories of people dying in the street that sort of disappeared.
The origin of it is one issue, but once it's broken out, and it's clearly killing a lot of people very quickly, and it's clearly going to come to our doorstep.
I have an answer.
You as the Prime Minister, what would you do?
Firstly, the very office of Prime Minister and executive power to that degree is absurd and corruptible, and it's one of the primary problems that must be addressed. Forms of technology could be really...
God, he's so condescending as well. And do you know what? So if we didn't have a government, though, who would... Listen, COVID was a disaster for a lot of countries. And, as much as I was critical of the UK government at the time, it was like difficult situations to deal with. So when he asked him, what would you do? He's got no answer. Do you imagine having him in charge when COVID was happening? What would he do? It's just all this crap. He's talk. What is he actually doing positively to help society? Really, what is he doing? He's just talk. And using as many big words as he can and condescending to people. He's getting a bit angry now with everything because this interview is not going his way. But you know what? If he was as intelligent as he thinks he is, he would have been intelligent enough not to do this interview in the first place. It was never going to go his way.
Really helpful in a true democracy. What I believe should have happened or could have happened, because that's really what you're asking me about the pandemic period, is that we should have remained open to a variety of views, including the views that were deliberately shut down, and e.g. Peter McCulloch, Robert Malone, Jay Bhattacharya, experts out of institutions of great respect and worth, listened to what they were suggesting, like in the, what was it called? The Barraclough Agreement, the Barraclough Declaration, right at the beginning.
But how would you have known which ones to believe?
Well, the fact is that I wouldn't place so much certainty in my own perspective and opinion because, firstly, I believe in God. And so I truly do believe in the values of protecting as many people as possible. I do believe in public good. I would have listened to the valid experts. I would have investigated.
But there were many valid experts, as you know, saying different things.
Do you know another thing to look at? Who's getting paid by whom? Who's worked for Moderna? Who's worked for Pfizer? Who's worked for Logically AI? Who's got these kind of, who has connections to certain financial institutions?
Would you have tried to make a vaccine?
What? I don't know, mate, because we're venturing right into sort of territory. Don't ask me.
You have a killer virus that's coming.
Don't ask me. I don't know, mate. So his thing is, that's fair enough. He doesn't know. Nobody knew. Everybody, including the government, to be fair, all governments, and governments dealt with this crisis, if you like, in different ways. You know, a lot of people in the UK complain about the lockdowns, but believe me, there weren't anything as strict as the lockdowns here in Spain. You couldn't walk out the door, literally, unless you had a dog. You could go out twice a day for 15 minutes. But our Prime Minister, the press sort of releases that he gave, he was very assured, and I don't know how to explain it. I always felt better after I'd watched him talk, whereas when I watched the UK broadcast, it just seemed like chaos, to be honest. But to be fair, you know, it was chaos, and unfortunately, a lot of people made money out of it, and that's still not been redressed. You've still got Michelle Mone, who's still in the House of Lords and hasn't been forced to pay the money back, and not only her, then there was the other one, what was it, Matt Hancock giving contracts to his mates. So all that needs dealing with. But the thing is, you know, Russell Brand, would he but have, you know, if he would have been in charge, what would he have done that would have been better? And then some countries like Sweden just had no restrictions whatsoever. They just let it rip through their country. And lots of people died, but lots of people died in all countries, I suppose. Maybe they were right doing it that way and just letting it rip through. But then if you lost someone that you loved, because it's the elderly, of course, and the vulnerable people, you know, would you feel like that? Would you feel that they're probably, well, I know for a fact, because I know people who live in Sweden, a lot of people are aggrieved there that they didn't have lockdowns. You can't please all the people, especially in a crisis.
Killing, obviously, a lot of people very quickly. You have an ability through your own scientists
give you a better
to create something that may be an antidote to it.
It might
not be perfect, and there might be a lot of side effects, as there have been with every vaccine in history. Would you, as the leader of the country, have done anything to protect the people from the virus, or would you have just let it do its thing?
In a sense, I have to reject this hypothesis and this condition because it brings to the forefront so many things I disagree with. But by answering the question in the way that I want to, I think, tell you a lot. I'm not saying educate you. I'd never be so bold.
Very happy to be educated.
But that's not like my intention, and that's not what I believe's happening.
I would like you to educate me.
This is what I think. I believe in maximum personal sovereignty.
Just doing that again, you know, the hand all up, you know, listen to me, I know it all. Personal sovereignty. But personal sovereignty, it doesn't work because we have to live in society, whether we like it or not. People don't agree with it. Not everybody agrees with us. But if we were all like clones and we all thought the same about everything, it could work, but we're not. So what are you going to do the first time someone disagrees with you? You know, it's just ridiculous.
And freedom. I believe that if you empower individuals and individual communities to the maximum, that you will get, if not better results, at least fair.
Won't save them from a killer virus.
Well, as it turns out, there wasn't one.
Well, of course there was.
Okay, I would say this is what I would do. Our best evidence suggests currently that this virus is pretty significant, and some people
I know 5 people personally who died from it.
Yeah, well, check out the statistics around people dying from vaccines.
You know, people, did he not know anybody who died of COVID? I do. I know several people, and I know several other people who were really ill because of it, but miraculously survived. That's before the virus was even, the vaccine was out there. So you can't blame it on the vaccine. They died when there wasn't a vaccine. That was the problem. So, you know, did he not know anybody who died of COVID then? To say that it didn't exist, I'm sorry, I think that's just crazy. And it's also insulting because to people who did lose someone through COVID.
Because that's much, much, much more important and significant, not least because the people that died from the vaccines were doing what the government told them to do.
Can you think of any vaccine in history where people haven't died from side effects?
Look, Piers,
do you know any?
I'm curious.
I'm not saying there weren't legitimate questions.
I'm curious
about people having side effects. Myocarditis, other things happened, no question. But I'm also aware that in every vaccine in history, you have had side effects that have killed people. For some reason, the COVID vaccine has inspired this incredible anti-vaxxer movement. And that's why I asked you the question, do you believe in the efficacy of any vaccines? Because RFK, who I really like, and I've interviewed him many times, who has a reputation as an anti-vaxxer, made it crystal clear in his testimony this week that actually he's not anti-vaccine, that he's been driving the measles vaccine here, he thinks very successfully. And so my question for you is there any vaccine that you think is a good thing?
I'm a little frustrated.
Or are you anti-vaccine?
I'm a little frustrated because what I sense is that I don't think you do it on purpose, but I think there are moments where you're doing your job where you get...
So it still doesn't answer the question. So it's a simple question. If you don't believe in the COVID vaccine, and as I just want to say, the people I know that died of COVID was before the vaccine was even out. So he's asked him, do you believe in the efficacy of any vaccine? It's a yes or a no. And he doesn't answer it. He just goes round and round in circles. So all those things he accuses politicians of and the state of, and they don't do this and they don't do that, they don't answer questions, they're not in the... He's just as bad. He can't answer a simple question. Do you believe in the efficacy of any vaccine? You know, do you think the polio vaccine is good? Do you think, you know, the measles vaccine is necessary? The whooping cough? Are there any vaccines? You know, he can't answer it. Now, you know, there's been some terrible things, of course, have happened in the past as far as drugs and things are concerned. Obviously, a big scandal, of course, was the thalidomide drug, you know, years ago. And that, of course, caused, very sadly, caused deformities, didn't it, in children? Now, the thalidomide drug, my mother took that drug, but luckily, she took it in the very late stages of her pregnancy with one of my brothers. And he was already formed, you know, as a fetus, a baby. It was literally, he wasn't long before he would be born. So he already, because thalidomide, it stunted the growth of the limbs, didn't it? The arms and legs. So he didn't have that problem, but he was born, when his first teeth came through, they were black. This is a folklore story, if you like, in our family. Don't know what the truth, it's a story that's been handed down. So when his first teeth came through, they were black. So they think that was the effects of the thalidomide drug. Now, wasn't it a drug that you took for oh God, what they call it, morning sickness, I think. That something to do with, you know, feeling ill while you're pregnant. Of course, now we know not take anything when you're pregnant at all. You know, I just remember when I was pregnant, looking for something because I had a chest infection, going to the pharmacy in the UK and saying, is there anything I can take? I have put some Vicks on. And the guy said to me, oh, you're not supposed to rub Vicks on when you're pregnant because it can cross the, It can cross it soaks into your system, and it can cross the placenta. And I was absolutely terrified. Never even occurred to me that just rubbing some Vicks on my chest and throat could affect my baby. Anyway, didn't. So, but do you know? So I think nowadays when people are pregnant, really, unless there's some risk to life or whatever, nobody would take. You know, you don't even want to take a paracetamol, do you, or anything? Nothing. You know, it's like just don't take anything. But of course, years ago, people weren't. You know, I'm not against people questioning pharmaceuticals more. I think it's good to question things. You know, because years ago, people didn't question it. You know, if the doctor told you to take something, you'd just take it. You wouldn't question it. You wouldn't think, oh, is this going to, you know, affect me in any way? Would it? Doctors were gods, weren't they? You know, and of course, you know, so it's now we're in like the other extreme sort of situation where we don't trust medical profession. You know, we question everything. So we've gone from not like my parents' era when they wouldn't have questioned anything the doctor told them, and then now we question everything. So there's got to be a middle ground that maybe we'll reach eventually. But yeah, Russell, he's not answering this question, is he? He never answers it. Anyway, I'm just going to fast forward a bit because I've got to go shortly. I want to get to the bit where he's looking for the Bible verse. I don't know if you saw this, but
that I am broken, that you are broken.
Do you have a denomination or not?
Why?
I'm just asking.
No, I'm very.
It's not an allegation. I'm just asking.
I just treat everything as another
I
allegation.
know you do. If you don't mind me saying, you're
Was everything okay in that interview we did in 2006?
Yes, but it's, you know, you are slightly hypersensitive to that kind of thing. I think because you don't really do many interviews. If I'm honest, you don't do. This is the first interview you've done with any Brit, for example, since the allegations. And I'm grateful to you for doing it, but you are slightly hypersensitive to anyone challenging you, because most of the media you do, you don't really get challenged.
I don't mind being challenged, and I want to be challenged, actually, and I like being challenged. And like, I didn't go, what, Piers Morgan?
Right.
This is what he's like.
Yeah.
He's going to be stroking my thigh throughout the interview.
I think this is a good conversation we've had. People will watch it, they'll take a view, they'll agree with you or me about this, that, whatever.
I think what you're interpreting...
But this should be how conversations are had.
I don't think it is, actually. But like what you're interpreting as sensitivity, it might be sensitivity. It's a form of intelligence.
Oh, there you go. Sensitivity is a form of intelligence. He likes to say how intelligent he is quite often.
Well, it's a bit like you saying, if you're convicted and you're going to jail, knowing in your heart of hearts that you're not a rapist.
I'm looking for the bit where he was...
Terrible.
Believe in new systems of leadership and new systems of government, and I believe.
Thing is, he believes in new systems.
Or trust and not be afraid.
But you know, what new system? What system does he think will work any better? Anyway, let's have a look at this bit where he's looking for the Bible verse that changed his life.
Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. That didn't hurt, did it?
A little bit. It was this from Isaiah. You're right, Bear did say, you know, be chilled. Sometimes I lose the chill, man. It's pretty...
Can't find it.
It's this. They don't like that, do they, in the old gallery? But remember, you just said it's a hired spot. This is from Isaiah. Excuse me. Man, I'm not going to mark it before. It says here, the verse that I was looking at that day was not this. I can't actually find the verse that I had that day, but this is good enough. This is from Isaiah.
So he can't find the verse that changed his whole life and gave him the epiphany to become a Christian. He can't find it, even though he's got loads of different highlight things in there, but he can't find that particular one. Anyway, I think Piers dealt with that really well. But anyway, he's found it now. So that's what we're going to look at now. He has gone on X now, and he has found this verse. Wait, Piers Morgan, I've found that verse. Let's have a look. So let's see what he says about it. So, wait, Piers Morgan, I found that verse. The really important thing is that we, you, me, all of us are loved. And not because of anything we've accomplished or ever could. So let's have a look at this little video we put out. He's still looking for it. Oh my God. No, probably not. Oh, the sound's not coming. Ah, that's so annoying. Why is the sound not working? Hang on. That's so annoying. Let me just, if I remove it and put it back. Let's try again. Oh. Why is that not working? I'm going to back on again. Why is that not? Oh. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure why that won't work and all that interference is coming out. Let's try one more time. Aye. Go back to it. Let's just see.
Still looking for that passage, actually, from Isaiah, from
Piers Morgan.
Yeah,
Wait for it.
yeah.
Wait for it. Look, it was marked all along. This is it. So when I was on Piers Morgan the other day, I was looking for it. I thought I should find the actual right passage, the exact one that I was looking at. When I was sat in the dock in the court, I don't know, maybe you've never been in a dock in a court accused of really heavy stuff. And I'm not sure if I found it right there in that moment, but this was the verse I was looking at that day. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Do you wonder sometimes if what you personally face will align and combine with something universal? Do you not feel that our whole culture needs a new thing to spring up? That our whole culture is a bit like a wasteland? The political scene, both globally and domestically, wherever you are, but also, globally. And sort of personally, that there's a kind of this isn't a great time in the world, is it? It's like, this looked like the Roaring 20s, but then the Roaring 20s was between the wars. And maybe from a macro perspective or a holy perspective, the world has always been caught in such tension. And indeed, that's exactly what this book and the prophecies of Isaiah posit, that it's not some localized thing. So when you're talking about, has the world been captured and conquered by dark spiritual perspective in a post-Epstein world, all of that is iterated theologically, historically, and scripturally, even though I find a lot of those words sort of difficult. So the answer is in here. It's like access to the most divine truth that's already within you. It's a kind of coming.
Don't know why it took him 3 days to find it, but anyway, it did apparently. So it's a lovely verse, and do you know what? I wish Russell all the best. If he's innocent of his charges, I hope he gets found innocent. If he's guilty of his charges, I hope he gets found guilty. I've got to go. I've got to work. But listen, thank you for watching. I'm going to edit this video down and put it up, sort of a shorter version. Thank you for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and may your God go with you. Bye.